Hi, so it's Thursday, so it's me, Wally Bell, Pepsi Phoebe or Caris, and this week we got to choose what we did our videos on. So I thought I'd do rabbit history because I don't know much about that myself, and I thought it'd be interesting to do a video about because then I can research myself. And yeah, so first rabbit history records date back to the Phoenicians. I don't know if that's how you say it. It's spelled Phoenicians, and that was in 3000 BC. And their sailors discovered rabbits in a place called Land of the Seraphs, and they named it that. Well, they named it that because the rabbits reminded them of the animal. I guess there was an animal called Seraph, and from that name, the place became Hispania, which is known today as Spain. So that's where Spain came from. And rabbit history then moved on to the Romans, who built their empire on military might. That's what it says. And they used rabbit meat to feed their soldiers, so rabbits were farmed for meat. And they developed enclosed wall areas called leporaria to help to keep wild rabbits readily accessible, because instead of just having to go out hunting them, they kept them in an enclosed area so they could get them whenever they wanted. And they kept them in fenced-off warrens and harvested them for their meat and fur. And the earliest known record of rabbits in Britain occurred during the 12th century, and they were first described as connies, after the second part of their scientific name, which I'm not even going to attempt saying, but the second, well, I'll try, Oryctolagus cuniculus. So they named them connies after the cuniculus bit. And rabbits are very adaptable, so they've become so successful in areas that they are sometimes even considered to be a pest. Okay, then rabbits in the Middle Ages. Then rabbit history moved on to the Middle Ages when they kept them in monasteries. That was when the first domestication of the European wild rabbit took place, because of breeding them for certain traits like weight and fur colour. And there are accounts of medieval women among the feudal gentry keeping domesticated rabbits for pets. So that's the first record of rabbits as pets as we keep them today. And so rabbits were introduced to Great Britain in the 13th century. Yeah, introduced as pets to Britain in the 13th century. By the 16th century, Henry VIII had rabbits so large he could hunt them. His daughter, Queen Elizabeth, kept rabbit islands in lakes and rivers where rabbits could flourish. So she kind of had these islands where she kept rabbits. This is where Coney Island, which is an island in New York, got its name from, because Coney is the name for the rabbit, as I said before. And yeah, today there are over 800 rabbit islands in the oceans and lakes of the world. So yeah, there used to be loads of places where they just kept rabbits for meat and farming and stuff. And then rabbit history moved on to the 17th and 18th century, where the world explorers took the European rabbit to foreign lands. It was Captain James Cook who first brought rabbits to Australia in the 1770s. Today rabbits can be found in every place on the planet, from the desert to the high mountains, because of their ability to convert varied plant life into nutritious food, so they can eat almost anything and it will be enough for them. And then in the Arctic regions, rabbits live on seaweed, so it shows how they can eat almost anything. And rabbits became one of the top game animals in the world, and they still are today. So one of the top animals to hunt for fun and for food, I'm guessing. And then during the Victorian age of the 19th century, when the Industrial Revolution brought people off the farms and into urban areas, it became popular among the rising middle class to have rabbits for pets. So they became more popular as pets instead of just farm animals and eating. And then A romantic attitude toward rabbits was developed at this time, and rabbits gave the city dwellers a sense of being connected to the country. So people had them so they could feel like they were kind of part of the country. And businesses arose that catered for the rabbit owners. They promote their wares by associating rabbits with children and innocence. So this perception persisted into the 20th century to the point where it now dominates the way rabbits are perceived in the public. So today the bunny is the #1 symbol associated with newborn babies, more so than teddy bears. So from the Victorian era, where they associated rabbits with innocence and children, they are now today, that is the image you see them, children's pets, which they aren't actually really supposed to be for young children, and associated with newborn babies, so even more so young children, which isn't exactly the image they want out today, especially rescues. And yeah, because loads of bunnies end up in rescues because they've been rehomed to young children that lose interest in them. So anyway, so at the turn of the 20th century, rabbit history took a significant turn where breeding rabbits became a popular activity. Sorry, there's a fly. So people bred rabbits as pets instead of for food. So breeding the Belgian hare, which is a rabbit that looks like a hare, became a big craze. Beatrix Potter had pet Belgian hares, which were the inspiration for her Peter Rabbit stories. Breeding clubs were formed, and from this developed what is today the American Rabbit Breeding Association, which has recognised 45 official rabbit breeds. So this is probably, I got this information from an American site. And I think there's a British Rabbit Council as well for breeding of rabbits. Not that I recommend you to breed at all. Go to a rescue. But anyway, in 1912, classification of rabbits as rodents was changed because of their peg teeth, a second set of incisors that rodents do not have. And they were given their own category, lagomorphs. With the development of DNA science, the rabbit's DNA has been shown to be closer to that of a primate than a rodent. So they're more closely related to primates, like monkeys and stuff, than to rodents like guinea pigs. Yeah. I think guinea pigs are rodents. Correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry if I'm wrong. During the 1920s, rabbit's fur became a big craze. Also, felt hats were very popular, and rabbit pelts we used to make them. So people used to wear hats with rabbit fur on and everything. Fringe from rabbit fur was used extensively, and even piano-sounding hammers were made from rabbit skin. So that in the 1920s, they used rabbits more for selling and fashion and stuff. The rabbit fur industry experienced its ups and downs, but with popular opinion now unfavourable towards fur and coats, it has become a small industry. So now, not many people want rabbits as coats and fur, so it's a tiny industry. There's still a tiny industry left. So, and then in World War I and during the Great Depression and World War II, people were encouraged by governments to raise rabbits to help feed themselves because there wasn't other meats readily available as they had been before. So, but after World War II, when other meats became available again, the demand for rabbit meat declined considerably and has stayed minimal ever since. During this time of widespread rabbit raising, bunnies became popular pets but were considered animals to be kept outside. So, as mine are outside, but then even more rabbits were kept outside, because I know nowadays quite a few more are kept inside, but they were thought to be outdoor pets then. And then rabbit history of the mid-20th century has been a dismal one for the wild rabbit, because they have been transported to locations where their natural enemies were absent. They multiplied at alarming rates and became pests to the agricultural industry. It is said that 10 wild rabbits can eat the equivalent of 1 sheep. Rabbits were killed by guns, traps, and imported predators like dogs, weasels, and ferrets. Australia is the best known scenario for rabbit overpopulation. They even built the Great Barrier Fence out of wire netting 3 times the length of the Great Wall of China, but it did not work. So actually, the reason for rabbits overpopulating is humans' fault for taking them places where they shouldn't have been. So in 1950, a biological solution was tried by releasing the myxomatosis, that's Myxomatosis, a disease carried by mosquitoes and fleas which killed 99% of the Australian wild rabbits. So for a human mistake, the rabbits had to pay. It depends on what side you're on, really, but it was a cruel thing to do, but maybe it was for the best of Australia and for all their crops and everything, and maybe there shouldn't have been so many rabbits. I don't really know, and I'm not going to argue about that now. But yeah, Myxomatosis is one of the illnesses that the rabbits have to have their vaccinations against, which all mine are vaccinated for, to stop them getting it, because it is a deadly disease. As you can see, it killed 99% of the rabbits. That's how deadly it is. This virus was also released in France by a farmer, which resulted in the death of 98% of wild rabbits in Europe and England. So that is a lot of rabbits. If you think about how many there were before, and 98% of them, was only 2% left, and 1% in Australia. It's a lot of rabbits. It also was lethal to domestic rabbits. Even today, in Queensland, Australia, it's against the law to own a pet rabbit. Well, and in New Zealand, rabbit ownership is outlawed altogether. So apparently, according to this information, I don't know how old it is, you can't own a rabbit in Australia or in New Zealand, or in Queensland. I'll have to check that. I never knew that. I didn't read that bit when I went through it earlier. Anyway, and then in the 20th century, rabbits were used in labs. In 1992 was the second animal to be successfully cloned. Because of work of animal rights groups and advances in science, the vast majority of lab animals experimented on today are rats and mice. So luckily not many rabbits are being used anymore. And then rabbit history took a turn very positive in 1980s, where Marinelle Harriman collected the term house rabbit in her book House Rabbit Handbook. The house rabbit movement officially began with the founding of the House Rabbit Society, which is an American rabbit website and which today has over 8,000 members. The idea that rabbits can live indoors is still a very novel concept to most people. We've had house rabbits since the late 1980s. Even today, our family, friends and acquaintances think we are strange for being so enthusiastic about them, especially since our home has developed into the Bitzer. So this is written by somebody who has house bunnies, and if you have a house bunny, you probably relate people thinking you're a bit mad for having your bunnies inside. I'd love to have mine inside. Yeah, so that's basically. And then, so today now rabbits are thought of more as pets, and I know farms do still farm them for meat, especially in other countries like France and stuff, but luckily for the bunnies, there's a lot more rabbit welfare campaigns, and people know a lot more about how they should be looking after rabbits as pets. So that was a brief rabbit history from me. I hope it wasn't too long or boring, and I hope that you enjoyed it. So yeah, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe to us and our partner channel, Guinea Pig Help Channel. I think that's it. And subscribe to all our personal channels. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Bye.